back then. And now you have, and I believe that Donald Trump issued more pardons than any president in modern history, if I'm not mistaken, but certainly more than Joe Biden, if you look at it on a month-per-month basis or annual basis.
It's astonishing, the difference.
Yeah.
Between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden's under like 50.
Right.
And Trump was like a few thousand.
I don't know if it was 50,000, but it was high.
A few thousand.
Oh, I thought I said 50,000. Yeah, I was like, well, come on, hyperbole.
No.
So let's look at Joe Biden. Has he jailed political? Well, remember Enrique Tarrio?
Yeah.
Proud Boys guy? Sentenced to 22 years for January 6th.
It's because that terrorism charge.
Yeah. Except he was in a Baltimore hotel.
Well.
Now, granted, he wasn't banging Chinese spies in said hotel. Jeez. Owen Schroyer.
Cool if he was.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did. And that movie line, comment below. Owen Schroyer, he was on the show, sentenced to 2 months for January 6th. He didn't enter the Capitol at all, let alone engage in any type of violence or destruction. Owen Schroyer, nothing. He didn't encourage violence. Also, you have to look at how is it applied. What happened with Ray Epps? Guy got a plea deal.
Yeah.
Last I've heard it, he's not actually going to do serious time, let alone in a prison
for doing absolutely nothing. Violence.
You have Peter Navarro. This was part of, I believe, of the Donald Trump transition team.
Yep.
4 months for defying a congressional subpoena. That's the first person to be sentenced to jail for that crime in 50 years. Now, keep in mind that Eric Holder was completely let off the hook for the exact same thing in the Fast and Furious scandal, which resulted in deaths of Americans.
Yeah, and he was not holding office, but he was in his position in the government at the time, and still defied Congress, and Congress basically said, we're just going to hold you in contempt.
Right. And
serious?
Then you have the total number of January 6th protesters. Yeah. It's 1,296 charged, 797 sentenced, and the median sentence for what was largely trespassing, that was the most common charge, 165 days.
Yeah.
165 days serving in jail or prison if you took a walking tour.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the People's House. I say that every time because it's the People's House.
You own it.
All right, come on in. All right, let's be peaceful. Then you do 165 days in jail.
Yeah.
When has Donald Trump done that?
No, he hasn't done that. Let's not forget all the people that they tacked on the terrorism charge.
Right.
To try to make this out to be the worst incident that we've ever experienced, again, this worst attack on democracy in our history. And the number that we didn't include there, the people who committed suicide.
Yep.
Rather than go to jail for what they thought would be 10, 20 years, thought their life was over because of this. Is that really what we saw on January 6th?
Right.
People committing suicide because of trumped-up charges, especially in some cases where they pled guilty thinking it was going to be this charge. Then the government changed it and said, hey, they're actually tacking on this charge.
Yeah.
And they kill themselves at 22 years old because of this.
You know why? Because you say if these people can send me to prison, they can definitely do anything while I'm in prison.
Yeah.
They can ensure that I'm unprotected, that I'm vulnerable, and I have as unpleasant of a time as possible. Almost like a Siberian penal colony.
Almost.
They lose their job and everything else.
Yep.
Lose their reputation.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupt you.
I was going to say, not to mention those, I think it was like 4 police officers that were involved in that killed themselves within 3 days. So they can't talk.
Remember, they were all listed as deaths.
January
6th. At first, they said 7 deaths.
Oh, 7?
They said 7, then they went to 5.
Five.
So 5 deaths. There was 1 death, and it wasn't an officer.
It was an officer, and then there were 4 officers that died later because they killed themselves.
Yep.
Killed them.